Hello, I'm Clever Pigeon. This is my post-commentated Anodyne 2 speedrun. My PB as of when I'm recording this, which is a 1:16:49. It's any percent good ending. It's the Switch version of the game. And fun fact, I actually I co-led QA on this game, so I have a bit of a unique perspective on it as someone who helped to make it in some sense, but also as someone who speedruns it. If you are a marathon committee individual, hello, thank you very much for considering this game and this category, and I hope to be able to explain to you some of the things I learned while I was working on it with Analgesic Productions, who made it, but also why I think it's such an interesting run and why I think it's a good thing to show at a marathon, and see what kind of things I can bring to it from my perspective. If you aren't from a marathon committee, hello, and I hope I can make this seem entertaining and maybe share a bit of stuff from behind the scenes from my time working on it. So, let us begin. Just before we get started, the first thing I need to do is make sure that the settings are correct. I need to make sure that double health and invincibility are both off. I need to make sure that the dialogue skip options, the one for speedruns and the one for just making the text show faster, are both on. Then I set the language to simplified Chinese because it's fastest. And with that, off we go. So you start with a little cutscene showing Sea Psalmist on the left and Palisade on the right, were like the mother figures of the character you play as, Nova, and immediately there's a skip where you get to jump out of the cutscene trigger. Ordinarily you'd wake up on that beach and you'd listen to your mothers through the TV, but you can just jump out of the trigger. So first we go into this yoke figure, and we collect one of the 3 power-ups we need in order to go forward. So this one's very simple. It just introduces you to the most basic things in the game. We pick that up, and out we come. There are 2 more of those. You can see the other one on that hill up there. So the next little thing we can do is pause floating, which is exclusive to console versions of this game. It's a console exclusive bug. And basically if you jump and then pause, it stores your momentum, and you can use it to gain a lot of height and quite a bit of distance, actually, if you're moving forward as well. This is another yoke figure, again, just a simple tutorial thing. And there we go. We're about to do another pause float here. We have to go right round the back of the island, but instead I'm going to count to 3 in my head, and we're going to run over the top. Into the last of the yoke figures now. This beginning part is fairly straightforward. Just get through to the end. And once we do that, we're going to do one more pause float when we get out in a couple of moments, and we will board the hatch line and get out of the first area, which is called the Albumen Shore. Out we come there. We're going to go and talk up top. Get a little cutscene, and then we get the Glandilock seed, which is like the thing Nova needs before truly being born into the world. Nova is a nano cleaner in the story of the game, and she was born to clean dust from inside people's heads, basically, that's causing them problems, emotional trouble, that sort of thing. Wow, the first little entryway, and into the center sanctuary. Little cutscene. What we would have here is one final tutorial section for a kind of mini-boss called a Nano Assassin, which happens in the 2D sections of the game. But we're going to skip that with some pause floats. We're going to just jump out of the top, skip a whole bunch of stuff. And what I also did there was I turned off the automatic text skipping for the speedruns. So I turn that off so that I can, instead of getting a pause float, use the text box of the little save egg you can see right there to fly up like that. And it's just a bit more consistent than, you know, having to count on your head without being able to see what you're doing. So once I've flown up high enough, I'm gonna wait for it. Once I've flown up high enough, I'm gonna turn to a car, because nobody can do that. And I'm gonna pause glide using the car. So each time you pause, your falling speed is reset to 0. And it gives you a little bit of time before your falling speed hits terminal velocity again. So each time you do that, you get a bit more distance. What I did there, I flew into some cutscene triggers that are way out of bounds. I did 2 of them at the same time, so I've cleared the storm that was above this first area, Center City Cenote, and I also put some dust into the big dust tube that is in the middle of the whole place. The dust prism, I think it's called, isn't it? It's been a while since I've seen all this in English and remembered all of it like that. Now we get our first, I guess our first true nanoscale area, which is the name for the 2D stuff. So this is Mysteria Wiesel. She's got like a coughing fit, so we're going to go and clear the dust out of her and make her feel better. There's a little minigame here called the Dimension Dive. Basically, these little crystals are fired, and each one corresponds to a direction. Hold the direction, and get to go past. They're the same every time, so it's quite simple. And also, what makes it really easy is that you can see on the ground, it also shows you what direction to press if you're having trouble figuring out which colour has gone which way. Excuse me, if I lean off and my model goes weird, it's because I've got to take a drink. So this is Mysteria Wiesel. We get introduced to some mechanics here. There are those slimes, which have that kind of dust ring attack. There are these, I don't know what you call these enemies, but they fire gumball, pea shooter type things at you. Hit a switch there to open the gate. And go and get one of 2 keys. We need to progress. And now we are introduced to baby slimes. If you kill a baby slime, a gate opens and blocks you from proceeding. So those are actually enemies, technically, that you don't want to hit. So you've got to make sure in all these rooms to keep the baby slimes from harm while killing the other enemies so that you can get through. And that comes up quite a lot in this dungeon. It also comes up quite a lot in the final dungeon, but we're a ways away from that yet. We got our keys. Keep going. Do some avoidance. There are things set up here so that you need to like save the baby slimes, but if you just walk past, the baby slimes... I messed up there. The baby slimes never get hit in that room. Again, same kind of thing. In this room, you can actually open one gate and then go out to reset the baby slime gate. And that's a little skip, prevents you from having to go around the whole way. Here is a nano assassin, but if we hurt it and walk through while it is taking damage, we skip the intro cutscene of it, and it skips the whole fight. And then we get this crystal, which is 36 dust. Get those at the end of most of the 2D areas. The crystal turns into a card, and we're out. So that's the first dungeon, I guess you can call it. It's pretty, typical as designs go. The game starts doing slightly weirder stuff with it, but it's a fairly straightforward, like, little 2D top-down dungeon type thing. I'm gonna do another pause float here. Up there, this is Bran Maligden, who is very angry. That's her problem. And after another dimension dive, we will help her out. I should mention, the pause float glitch is console exclusive. That's why I'm playing on the Switch version. Unfortunately for me, the Switch version also has a decent amount of input lag. I don't think that's a problem with the port. I think that's just a problem with the Switch, to be honest. But that does make things a little trickier. But as you can see, it's still perfectly doable. Now these things shoot fire here. You can use them to open up gates. And I am going to go for a strat here to do this in one cycle, and I'm going to miss it. I remember missing that. So that's fine, we just get the other one. This gate is weird. The sign said before it that the gate wants the slimes to be on fire but not dead. We actually did kill one of them, but because we set it on fire first as we fired it out of our dust cannon, whatever, then it still counts. So, that's fine. These blue slimes cool down the fire. There's another one here, but it's quite a ways away. And since you also go slower when you have something stored in your vacuum cleaner's chamber, we just damage boost through. A little maze here with that angry thing spewing fire from the corner. We're about to come up on another nano assassin down this ladder. Technically it can be skipped, but it is very, very precise positioning to get a block to be able to hit it with without triggering the fight. And that's going to be really, really difficult on Switch, especially with the input lag. And there's a decent chance we just fail and lose the time and have to do the fight anyway. So we just do the fight. And that's Bran. So, coming out of Bran now, we've got a big pause float coming up, the longest one in the run, by quite a long way actually. I'm gonna line up here, and I'm gonna pause and count to 24 in my head. And you see I turned off the speedrun auto text skip again. That is because if I left it on this time, when I hit some cutscene triggers again, the cutscene would skip by too fast, and it would caused the game to go into a glitch state in which everything was black, and I would have to save, quit, and reload. So we turn it off and we wait for a specific point in the cutscene where everything is going to be fine, and it lets us reload. So I land down here, I hit those two triggers, the two furthest to the left this time, and that puts cards in the dust prism and also fills it up with some more dust. Wait until the cutscene pans out fully, and then we're safe. So normally you do have to fill the prism up with cards and dust to clear the storm and get out a certain way, but what we have done with those two skips is made it so that none of that really matters. We still have to get the cards for later counts, which is why we're still doing these areas. But it means we don't have to worry about dust at all, and the dust we are putting in is basically preloaded for the next area outside of Center City Cenote, which means we don't have to worry about dust for the second part of the run either. This is Gustine. Gustine is afflicted with a desire to taste a lot of things. There's like taste buds all over her body. It's kind of gross. If any of you know Finton Lexa, otherwise known as Half Coordinated, who used to speedrun stuff, they played this game and they referred to this in a somewhat love-hate way as the tongue zone. There are a lot of little pulley type things here. Lots of little NPCs you walk past. There are a lot of things where you have to try and kill the little spiny enemies with the tongues. This room is weird. You've got to go and get the tongue to touch that NPC, and then it opens the gate. And he is like a little too happy about being touched by the tongue. So there's key number 1. All these, there are 4 areas in Center City Cenote, and they all follow the same kind of 2 keys, a little extra bit, nano assassin structure. Here's another nano assassin, speaking of. This one cannot be skipped. It just doesn't line up right. Ordinarily, you would have to go and pull that pulley all the way at the top right if you wanted to open up the battlefield more, but there are just enough blocks on the left side to line it up so that you don't have to do that. And there's our crystal, and that is Gustine. Just taking another drink, sorry. Very important to stay hydrated, and very important to keep your throat moistened when you're talking this much. So here's a little cutscene. This actually wasn't in some of the first versions of the game that I played. This was a late edition. Palisade comes and sees that you're very tired, carries you back to Center Sanctuary, and then you could just get put back, and off you go. The fourth and final area of Cenote is Great Guam. First we have to talk to her children, and then we can talk to her, and then we spark into her and get another dimension dive. I always really like the Dimension Dive music. Right, into Great Guam. The Great Guam's children's affliction is that they've become all primitive and really dirty and they just roll in their own filth. That's the whole kind of vibe going on here. So, just killing some enemies to clear these gates. We don't have to clear those weird little 2D burrowing Guam things in some of those rooms. Then we get to go back through here, and then we head upwards to the second area, which involves trying to navigate around in the dark. So first you see an area in the light, and then you get to try and go through it in the dark without these rope barriers in the way. There's two. There are three of them. This is the last one. And there we go. Back down to this room. And through. So, you might think, oh, why not just suck these up? You can't. You're blocked from being able to suck them up. These, on the other hand, you can, and you have to kill 3 or 4 of them to get past. Little ladder downwards. Turn this on, and it's all burrowing and creepy. Suck up this enemy. Take damage, and we can skip the text trigger again and skip that nano assassin. And with that, we are done with Center City Cenote, and we are moving on to the next major area of the game outside the city called the Blue Veil. Got just a little more to hear from Palisade. You can clip back out using this car. The car, in case I didn't mention before, you can use it to clip a lot. This is actually the fixed version of it. Before it was even easier to do so, but it was patched out a bit because people could do it casually. But you can still do it if you're trying. We're going to put some dust in at the top into the prism, and that basically fills it up as far as we can go, so that we will definitely meet our counter by the time we are done with the next 3 2D areas. You need all the cards so far and 200 dust between the prism and your vacuum inventory in order to advance to the area after the Blue Veil. This makes it so that any dust we've collected in Gustine and the Great Guam we can just put in, and between that, the dust we get here and the dust we put in the second cutscene trigger activation, we will definitely meet what we need to. We're doing another pause fly here. Pause glide even. Down in the middle here is a character called Geoff Agricite. And ordinarily we'd have to go there to him and do another dimension dive. But if we go up top, that's where we would enter halfway through the dungeon. You would come back into 3D and then come back into 2D. If you just fly up there, you skip the dimension dive game. You don't get to skip half the dungeon, unfortunately. This is the start of the dungeon. But the dimension dive time save is already a significant amount. so I'm not too worried. Just moving through here. Some of these platforms are an awkward angle to move in. You're directionally locked to 8 ways. And some of these angles aren't quite cardinal like that. Alright, so that is when we would come out back into 3D. We'd have to traverse up here again. Pause float makes it trivial to get back up. Now into the second half of the dungeon. You notice I went about out of my way to pick up a key. So in the first half of this dungeon, I picked up the key, and in this second half, I'm going to use the key. In the Blue Veil characters, in their 2D spaces, there are extra cards that you need to pick up in chests. And that is quite important because you do need them all. We're just off to get that now. There's our card. Now we can just make our way out. You notice in the first half I had to take the dust off of graves to clear the gates. I talk to these people where the graves used to be, and does the same thing. Just moves you through. They're all talking about the town that Geoff built and why they've all left. That little character on the left, there's no corresponding grave for them, so you don't have to talk to them. And Geoff, this was a late edition, there's no gate, so you don't have to talk to him either here. In his little 2D form. And that is Geoff Agrosite's nanoscale space. Little cutscene with Palisade. What's she up to? Makes it sound suspicious. She's actually very nice. There's Geoff. Only time we really see him. You can jump up there, a little bit Skyrim-like. Now we get on to the Emerald Highway. I think that's what it's officially called, but again, it's been a while. So this is Blue Veil West. We're going to go into Blue Veil South, because there is a card here. And we're going to go and get that card using some pause floating, and then some pause gliding with the car. So one, I counted to 5, and then I counted to 3. Whenever I'm doing those pause floats, I'm counting to a certain number in my head, and I've got them all memorized. Get stuck on the geometry here, and it's kind of weird. I'm at a bad angle. You can clip into this pipe rather than open the thing up, but it's not necessarily always going to be faster, because you might not clip, and you also might clip completely out of bounds and fall to the death plane. So it's better just to open it up. Do some more pause gliding. This time just not in the car. It's just enough to get you over here to character number 2 in the Blue Veil, Iwasaki Antimon. He lives in this like underwater tree dome. I like this Dimension Dive minigame. The pattern's kind of satisfying, especially those first 10. So, Iwasaki's nanoscale area is very cold. We're going to have to deal with snow slimes and also snowmen. For the snow slimes, if you try to suck them up, they just despawn and hit you with these snowballs. They're devious little things. I remember that in my PB. I got hit on my little ice cube to kill it, got hit on some collision. I don't know why. So there's one key we need. And now we're going to have to start dealing with snowmen. So snowmen, when you get close enough to them, they burn a couple rooms. When you get close enough to them, they pop up and start chasing you. And either within a certain amount of time, or when they hit you, they explode. So you want to be careful of them. Now that we've got our keys, we can move on again. This is key number 1. Now these snowmen up here are peaceful in the like nice, pretty, not stormy part of this area. Put the other key in. It's not technically luck, it's basically down to how good your movement is, whether or not you get hit by these saw-looking things. Thankfully there's a little safety save here that you can take, because these next 2 rooms, you tend to take quite a bit of damage in them. Then there's our second card from Iwasaki. And back through. And we get to have another little escape into 3D. We spark this post box. If you're wondering, hey, couldn't you force float over to this? Well, you could, yes, but it's a soft lock. Because you do start halfway through the dungeon, but you don't have the keys to get down to the card you need to pick up. And if you were to go back to Iwasaki and try to spark into him there, you would not be able to spark into him. So you do have to... It would save a lot of time if you could, but you do have to go down to Iwasaki and do the whole dungeon conventionally. You know, this is just a little bit of fun. There's a camera change here, and if you're holding the analog stick, it doesn't, like, reset to deal with the camera. So the angle you're holding is kind of weird compared to the angle you're actually moving in. Dash out there. There's a little card in the wild over here too. There was one in Blue Veil West at the building we started flying to Geoff from, which is like a car wash. And then we go over here to the third and final character in Blue Veil, Clonway Jonstein. Now Clonway's sister, Lonway, says, oh, he's got a real problem with the dust, and he's definitely not a robot that I built, so we're gonna go and sort him out. There are various little characters you talk to in the Clonway nanoscale area that also exist in Blue Veil East, which is where we are currently in 3D. But we've never actually seen them in 3D, because they're round another bend, and we never go there. But yes, Clonway Jonstein. Lonway has a little drone with us. And this is actually one of the most demanding 2D areas in the game. It's very fast paced. It's set up in these like test chambers. I messed it up. And you have this like shadow Clonway who is weak to these purple clouds of dust, or shadow. He can press the like bluish purple buttons. He can also turn these spiny things into bluish ones that move around and can also press the buttons. You cannot press the bluish purple buttons by yourself, which makes it very important to maneuver Clonway and the spiny things to get through. And then at the end of each test chamber, you have to kill off the Shadow Clonway because he's blocking your way out, and you'll just bounce off him if you try to walk into him or through him. So that was test chamber 1. And then we get introduced to these like teleportation pads. It's very simple. They just teleport you to the one of the corresponding colour. You've got to be careful with them because sometimes if things go a little pear-shaped, you can walk into them and then off of them just enough to make them trigger again. And you'll keep going back and forth and you get stuck. And it's very disorienting. A bunch of little puzzles there. Got to get through again to kill the Shadow Clonway. I can't remember if Shadow Clonway has an official name. But Shadow Clonway is how I think of him. And the third and final test chamber. Messed it up again. Turn that one spiny, hit the button with Clonway. Then go down and hit the other one with the spiny thing. There's a lot of quick movement to do here, as you can see. You've got to be very focused in this area. It's not the sort of thing you can just relax while you're doing. This dust, it's on a cycle. It's luck whether or not it's on a good cycle that lets you go through without waiting. We had to wait a bit there, but it was fine. Because sometimes it's at the top and you have to wait longer. Get a little key. One more kill Shadow Clonway area. This one's more complicated. The other ones are really straightforward. This one you've got to kind of think about. And then our dust. And at this point, Longway reveals, surprise, Clonway's a robot. She built him to test social interactions that she would like to partake in. And so you suck up her drone as well, because the dust is actually like synthetic that she put in Clonway's head body thing in order to simulate the interactions. But yeah, it's a very interesting little mini story. I'm gonna do another pause float to get over this gate. And now that we've got all the cards and a total of at least 200 dust, we get a cutscene, and unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to Palisade. She gives us a message before she gets disappeared, and Nova is pulled into this weakened state. So now Nova faints whenever she walks into a new area. After 8 steps, she starts walking faster again. The speed of her car form, which is called ride scale actually, is reduced. There is a very, very tight window of time to get through this particular room without running out of time to be in ride scale form. I miss it in this run because it is really tight. It is really difficult. So if you get through there without transforming at all back into regular Nova, you can hold your ride scale all the way through without having to wait to turn into it again. It's deceptively tough, honestly. It is very tight, and on the Switch with the input lag, it's even harder. Now we have to traverse the dust storm. Okay, Nova falls down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 steps. We can go again. And we go to this tower, which has probably got a name, but I can't remember. It's been a while, sorry. Gravity inverts in the tower. We fall all the way down. I'm going to try and stay off the ground, just because it makes my cycle of Nova falling over and being able to run at full speed more consistent. Did a little weird slide on the floor there, I don't know why. We can pause float up by counting to 5 to the top of the tower. We got to do a little bit of gliding because we are at slow speed. Then we got to spark into this fruit, and then it gets eaten by this dog called Walgali, and it is definitely a dog. I remember this game, shortly before it came out, got into the Can You Pet the Dog Twitter account, because you can pet the dog later. And people replying to it were like, are you sure this is a dog? Are you sure this isn't Friday, the day you post things that aren't dogs? But it is a dog, as the developers have assured. Anyway, we have sparked into Walgali the dog, and in his fur or his system somewhere is Dustbound Village. We deployed our special card we got from Palisade earlier, and they're like Lamal, and they rip it up. And then Nova faints. A lot of times in this area, you will see me spawn in weird places, and that's because during the fade-in, I've held the D-pad a certain direction, and it just saves me a little bit of walking time. You'll see it a few more times. So that guy, Drem, as it turns out, they're not too bad. They're pretty decent people. But there is a funeral. And Nova's never seen a funeral before. And she's like, death? Why can't we stop that? So we go to the funeral and we talk to Drem again. And we talk to that pink lady there, whose name is LGBT. If you see what they did there. Thank you, Marina. And then we can leave that room, and we just have to go off and find what Palisade made for us. Just down here. We have to take the train. The train's got feet, but don't worry about it. And then we go to this little side area called Handfruit Haven, which couldn't possibly be a little playground. Oh no, this is a ritual room, definitely. The ritual 1 is the dice, and ritual 2 is the rickety bridge, and ritual 3 is the slide. I'm gonna hold down right here after this cutscene fade out, because Nova thinks she's been poisoned, but actually she's out of range of the center and now she needs to eat, so she has some soup. If you hold down right there, you can make it without taking any damage. Just a little faster again. So, tummy rub. That example didn't do anything, but you could see I held down there, and I was in a weird position related to energy. Then we go farming. This room is annoying because you have to sort of just sit and tank damage. In my PB before this one, I died here, and that sucked. Thankfully, there's a save at the start of this farming section, but still rough. Then we get to the end. And we walk off once again to Handfruit Haven. And this time, once we get to Handfruit Haven, we're going to do the rituals. The fortune-telling dice, the rickety bridge, and sacrificing soup. I can't remember what it all symbolises. Again, been a while. And then Drem tells you, hey, why not do wrestling? So use some wrestling. And since you've been being a farmer, you get to have this like vine-themed get-up as your wrestler persona. The wrestling's the same all the time. First you have to fire at Drem, then you have to block his attacks, and then you get these QTEs. Firing stuff at Drem actually works differently to anywhere else in the rest of the game. Instead of just firing, you have to hold the X button down until the thing you fired is right next to Drem, and then you let go, and it blows up and hits him. Another farming section. This room is always kind of weird. Gotta deal with all these. So we can just fire them at the vine throwing ones. And that works pretty well. There we go. There are only 2 farming sections, so that's it for the farming. But we do have quite a bit more wrestling, so don't worry. Once we're done, we go down to Handfruit Haven again. Sacrifice this rose. Again, I can't remember what it means. More wrestling. The things you have to do are slightly different this time. So, hit Drem, block and attack, hit Drem, block and attack, hit Drem, and that's ding ding ding, stage 1. Then QTEs. The last button of the QTE is always X, so there you go. Then we get another bit of this. I shouldn't have sucked that up, that was a waste. But there we go, it doesn't matter that much. Now we have to suck something up, and it stuns Drem, and we suck Drem up and launch him off the arena. And that is it for Wrestling 2. Unfortunately, Energy's dying. As I forgot to tell you, that's what's been happening. Nova's really worried about it. The Glandulock seed is not very happy about it, as you may have noticed. But as it turns out, it's not a tumour. It is in fact a shoulder baby. And Elegy names her shoulder baby Ash. And teaches Ash to teleport using the dust. Now listen to this, it's adorable. Ah, I love it. I held left here, you can see I'm very far away from Elegy. But all this stuff that he's learning about, the dust not necessarily being bad, and death, and all that, that's making the Glandulock seed very mad. One more Handfruit Haven. of the dice, up across the bridge, and this time Nova sacrifices herself. It's really quite sad, even though it's just watching a little sprite go down a slide. Anyway, we start off the wrestling 3 with the same thing: attack, block, attack, block, attack. Then we get the QTEs again. There are 8 of them if you don't mess up. Then you get this kind of Kirby boss-like bit where you have to hit Drem with the things he creates when he ground pounds. I messed this up quite a bit, but it went okay. Then you have to go and just block this huge attack. You can spam it, and that's the end of wrestling. And aside from cutscenes, this is the end of the Dustbound Village section of the run. Nova has a bit of trouble here because that new character that came in is supposed to be the center, and they think the center's evil. And it conflicts with her worldview. And Nova decides to leave, goes back to the Handfruit Haven, but Ash has followed her and turns it into the playground that I guess it was always meant to be. And Nova's really mad about it because her sacred space has been desecrated, so she blows it up. And that is the end of Dustbound Village. Now, after a brief set of cutscenes, we get to explore the final 3 nanoscale areas of the game, as well as the final 3D main setting of the game, the Outer Sands. But first, they find Nova and hook her back up to the center and all that, and they've cleared the dust storm some more. And if you were worried about Palisade, fear not, because coming to replace her is Steve Jobs. So this is C Visionary. He introduces something called the MetaClean and MetaCoins. As the name implies, they're all sort of to do with the meta. It accesses you like secret areas and such. It has nothing to do with this run. But you will see that there are now all these coins everywhere. But Sea Visionary is one to watch. I was trying to sort of grind my way off the side here to get over there. Messed it up, so I just paused, flew across. We need to go and grind for dust, because this is an area where dust is actually not taking care of us by skips and tricks and glitches. We need 150 dust in the dust prism in order to get to the final area of the game. So to do that, first we go into Clonway and grind in this room here for 60 dust. And then later on we will grind somewhere else for the remaining 90. So we need at least 60 here, and then whatever adds up to 150 from the next area. Oh, I got lucky there that nothing spawned down there and I didn't have to go and get it. So, 61 dust, which means I need 89 where we are going to grind later. But first we're just going to go and put that dust into the prism so that we've got the space for the remaining dust that we need. And then we get to go into Outer Sands proper. Where the 3D area that we went to Dustbound Village in is actually part of the Outer Sands. It's Outer Sands South. But that little excursion is a bit different because you have to traverse the dust storm. And things are all a little rough. But now we get to explore things a bit more properly. You notice I go through Blue Veil East a lot more than Blue Veil West. Blue Veil East is almost always faster to travel to other areas in the game through than Blue Veil West. Just the way it's laid out. Here is Outer Sands North. These are tremuloids. We get 2 of them. We have to talk to 5 of them in a certain order. But then we go up to this thing here. This dolphin, it's upside down, and it's clipping through the rock, and something seems something seems a little off with this Dimension Dive minigame. Yeah. This area of the game is very interesting. I believe the devs referred to it as getting dolphined or something like that. The NPC there is called Desert NPC, like you can see in the split. Like a name in the code. This area, in English, is called No Such Scene. And before we leave No Such Scene, we are going to get the thing we need to also complete the game. We're going to get part of something called the Tri-Lock Collar. There are 3 Tri-Locks and the collar, and we need to get them and put them on Walgali in order to get the good ending of the game. And now we get to leave No Such Scene, and things go a little bit pear-shaped, and we meet, I guess, the final name for this area, which is Nora. So wake up and smell the coffee, because we're going isometric. So there's a weird little narrative here. Something about the gargoyle out there on the corner of the building. Then we walk to work. There is nothing quite like this anywhere else in the game. Certain ways to go. It's not too specific, but we go left, up, right, up, right, up. Through these pathways to get out of the apartment building. It's not the end of the world if you go a different way, that's just fastest. And then we leave for work, little cutscene, come back in from work, talk to the computer. Can't remember what Nora said about it, something like it's too late to go on the computer, I don't know. Anyway, go to sleep, vacuum cleaner. There was a storm in the night, and there you go. The gargoyle is gone. It must have got knocked down in the storm. Or so they say. Thankfully we don't have to walk all the way to work this time, but we do get a nice surprise when we come back. Gotta talk to the gargoyle, then we can go in. Speak to the computer. Some stuff going on. We've been contacted on social networking by GG800. That's the end of day 2 of Nora. Day 3 of Nora is all cutscenes and dialogue. Nora gets a call from her friend who she hasn't spoken to in a while, called Eebs. And they hang out together. And Eebs spends the night. And she talks to Gigi some more on the computer, and it's weird. Following this is a straight-up horror section, but because the devs are very nice people, they left an out. You can climb out the window and skip the horror section if you don't want to do that. And since it's faster, unfortunately we are skipping the horror section. and that is Desert NPC / all its other names. Melos, one of the devs, referred to this as being like grey canon. So it's like kind of partial canon. It's that area. Anyway, we go and hit another tremuloid. And then we go into Outer Sands East, where it is nighttime, and we go up this big hill. And we talk to a big, polygonal, Andros-looking face, whose name I cannot remember. And he says, "Nova, help me from the dust." Spoilers, by the way, there is no dust. Notice there is no Dimension Dive minigame. But we go into this place, which is called Orb Sector 4-16-5. And it's very simple. We're only here to get one of the Trilocks, one of which has spawned in here. So to do that, we just open this place up. We speak to Fabrahem there, and that opens a gate here, and then we walk all the way to the end, we get the Trilock, and then we leave. There's actually a little bit of dialogue that I contributed here by accident. I made a joke about a reference to the first Anodyne game in Fabrahem's room, and Melos liked it enough to add it into the game, basically verbatim. So that's my one contribution. This area is slightly trickier than it looks though, because those diagonal sections you have to hold diagonally in order to go up and down them quickly enough. Otherwise it's like rubbing against a wall. Anyway, now I can leave. We do not come back to Outer Sands East. The Trilocks, I should say, spawn in whichever areas you go into in Outer Sands first. So these are the 3 fastest. There are actually 5, I believe, in total. But these are the fastest. So we just go and get the Trilocks and some dust, and then we bail. One more Dimension Dive. This is the last one. And if you're familiar at all with Anodyne 1, this may look familiar. So welcome to the Nexus. This is not an Anodyne 1 run. If it were, I'd bank slightly left, but here I'm banking slightly right. And this guy, who's like an XP of Sage from Anodyne 1, gives us the ability to nano-spark, which means basically you can now spark in 2D. And we're going to do that to go into this very ZX Spectrum looking area here. And there's this whole story, but you don't have to read any of it. You can also spark in those areas, which I guess is a Pico spark. I don't know. And we talk to this guy 1, 2, 3, 4 times. The gate opens, and welcome to New The Land. I think this whole area is inspired by a piece of old software for making games called OHRRPGCE. I'm not very familiar with it. I think it's a little bit like RPG Maker, but I don't know, I might be wrong. The Trilock is in that chest. That's 3 of 3. Now we go and grind for dust. Luckily, in New The Land, there is this room with a whole bunch of slimes in it. And they're all decorated in different ways. There are some baby slimes, there's the football referee looking slime. There's a slime that looks like Young from Anodyne 1 and one from Aleph, the protagonist of Eve in the Ocean, who came before all this. And some others. There's like a Waldo slime as well, or Wally, if you're British like me. And there we got 90. Our magic number was 89, so, you know, that's either 89 or 90. Doesn't give us much wiggle room, but hey, it works. And then we can just leave through that Nexus portal. Back out into the Nexus. And out, and now we can go left. Out of the Nexus, back into Outer Sands North. Now, before we stop off at Dustbound Village again, go back to Walgali the dog, we do need to collect the Trilock collar itself. And that is on this boat here, BOHT, as it's spelled in the game, which there's an NPC over there who makes boats. This mysterious invention. Then we can just make our way through, all the way through Outer Sands West, and go to Outer Sands South, and back up the tower. So thankfully, we are not hamstrung by being stunned and falling over and walking slowly, and all that this time, so it makes it a little easier. We get to do this again. Count to 5. And we talk to Walgali twice, pet him once, and then second time the collar gets put on him, and now we can spark into him. And you might notice that Dustbound Village looks a little different. It looks a little bit neater. And there's a whole bunch of story things here, but the long and short of it is the centre found Dustbound Village and it's been cleansed. So everyone is all really nice, but they've lost their personalities. And Drem actually taped up your Palisade card at some point, so he didn't really care. Elegy and Ash were safe from being mind wiped because they were dust teleporting at the time, and then Nova has like a crisis of conscience because of the Glandilock seed. It's kind of a recurring thing in Analgesic Productions games that the figure of authority is not to be trusted. Anyway, another little cutscene, and then we get to go to fill up the dust prism and then go to our final area in 2D, Nano Cleaner Zera. But first, make our way back down. Again, Blue Veil East is pretty much always faster than Blue Veil West. Especially since we didn't actually properly open up the car wash building in Blue Veil West. So first, we've got to add up all our dust. And this should hit 150. Yeah, there you go. 151. And that means we have enough dust to do what Nova does next, which is pop open the dust prism and jump in. Fun bit of menuing. It asks you 7 times and starts to like guilt trip you. 6 sparks to the dust prism's cap and it pops off. You get a lecture from Steve Jobs and C. Psalmist. And then you jump in. You get this silent cutscene to build suspense for the hopefully incoming PB. And they're like, oh no, she died and the dust prism's broken. And then you find out, oh wait, they've got a replacement for you. I think Nova's like the 60-second something nano cleaner. But anyway, Nova teleports using the dust because she's tricked them into thinking she's dead. And Sparks into the new nano cleaner, Zera, in order to rid her of of the things she got from her own yoke figures, in order that she may be free from the center's malign influence. There's a lot of stuff going on in this area. It's quite long, it introduces a fair few new mechanics. Those bubbles, these boomerang enemies, that like pink stuff on the floor that is like ouchy spikes. And also little Zeras that you can fling at slimes. So those bubbles, they kind of give the enemies ice physics when they're in them. Or they protect the enemies, actually. The Spinies all have ice physics here. But yeah, they protect the enemies, so you can hit them with things like that. There's a boomerang in a bubble. Got to do some fun and kind of tricky and quite scary little tricks here to open the gate by killing all the Spinies. There are 3 particularly tricky boomerang rooms in the game, or in this area. You're supposed to do one here as well, but you can just suck up the 2 slimes you need to kill and not worry about the baby slimes at all. Then you got to get these you get these spiny enemies onto the patches of spiky ground to be destroyed. I got a fast cycle here. You get this pea shooter thing to shoot the spinies out. And you don't have to worry about it going the other way back, thankfully. So we're going to get various keys and go various places and destroy various things. This is the second particularly difficult boomerang room. Gotta weave all around stuff. It's tough because if you lose momentum on the boomerang, it can be a pain to get it back. Like if it hits you or something. Here's a little boomerang room. That was pretty simple. So the boomerang got slightly away from me there and went round to my right side. Here's one of the things we picked up that Zera's also got. Got to destroy it. If we vacuum it and actually freezes it in place, then it takes 10 little sparks to destroy it. And then we can leave. I should point out, by the way, that our own Glandilock seed is not very happy with us. Yeah. So we just make our way back now. All these different ways. Drop the key in. Now we get these pain gates, the red gates, which you have to take damage to open. So this area is all about finding ways to take damage. Gotta make sure that boomerang doesn't get destroyed on the spiky ground. Use some teleporting things to get hit by Zera. There. One of the little Zeras. Figure out a snowman. Here's another thing. I can't remember its name. Again, sorry, it's been a long time. But that one hides in the corner because it gets kind of treated like a dog the whole time. So unfortunately, we did kind of shoot the mechanical dog. Sorry. Make our way back again. Thankfully, there are a lot of healing things. Now we want to carefully maneuver this bubble, which is harder than it looks, to block this. There are other ways to do it than that, but that one works quite nicely. Just sort of push it around with yourself. Oh, I missed there. Thankfully we've got another one. Make our way back, and you remember there was a junction quite near the beginning, and we never went right, so now we go and use the last key to do that. hit that with some teleports. Get into a little room where it asks you who should live, baby or old person. You can actually kill both of them and the gate still opens. There's no right or wrong answer. Ooh. This room, you've got to get that snowman to hit the spiny without killing any of the baby slimes. It's tougher than it looks, especially under pressure. And then this is the last of the tricky boomerang rooms. Probably the easiest of the three, actually. There you go. Deal with this. And now, once we make our way back through here, now we've made our way back through, you can see that all the gates are open and we can enter the arena of the final boss, which is actually Zero's very own Glandulock Seed, and it's mad. It's kind of evil. So this fight works in cycles. It shoots that thing at you, and then you try to shoot the connecting bubbles, whichever one is red. And then you can fire the big ball at the seed, and it opens up, and you go into the seed and kill its little inner enemies. The fastest fight is 6 cycles of the outer seed layer. So it took 2 cycles on that one, and then it starts getting more difficult because you start getting fired at. So yeah, you can get in 6 shots each time. That's 4 cycles. Pick up some health first. Shoot these things at the enemy. It takes 6 of them, each of them, and they each have different obstacles. One of them is just pretty straightforward, one of them shoots at you, and one of them shoots at you and makes part of the floor damage you. Ooh, I missed a shot there, see? So this one will take an extra cycle. It's not the end of the world, it's only a few seconds. The more important thing is not to die, which you shouldn't if you've got enough health, but it is very nerve-wracking if you have low health, and a real shame to die here. So yeah, this is the last one. The floor damaging you doesn't really matter if you've got the health for it, which you really should. 6 shots. There's our last one. Time will be coming up at the last text box in this area, I'll call it out. And now we get to suck up the Glandulock Seed. There'll be a loud noise and then time. Time. And that is Anodyne 2. Any % good ending. Specifically the Switch version. There's a whole bunch of story stuff here. I could not explain it as well as the game could. So Zero dies, and then Sea Visionary is like, why did you do that? She can't live without those. But then the spark of love deals with him, and a whole bunch of stuff happens. But you're going to find out that Zero is actually fine. She's just been turned into a baby. Sea Salma sacrifices herself. And you head out west with Elegy and Ash as 2 mummies and 2 babies on one of the boats that boat guy makes. Yeah, I could not explain the story of this game nearly as well as the game itself could, like I said. It's very sweet, it's a very personal story. But as for the run itself, and the tech in the game, I hope I got across how interesting and how cool and how varied and diverse that is. Again, if this is something you're looking at for a marathon, thank you very much for considering Anodyne 2. And I hope you like it as much as I do. It's been a privilege to work on this game. It was my first game dev work as a QA, or my first game dev work at all, really. But yeah. And you take the dog with you, by the way. The end. Yeah, I hope that you enjoyed it, because this run is a lot of fun to do. It's quite a tech-heavy run, both in the 3D and the 2D, which is why it is so varied. There aren't that many games that do the same kind of thing, of splitting it between dimensions and playstyles like that. I'm just going to go through the credits. I always like to stop here because, hey, look, it's me, right below Notepad, which I always find really, really funny. Yeah. That is, again, that's Anodyne 2, 80% good ending. Thank you very much for watching. Post-credits cutscene. Maybe he remembers a little bit, you know? There you have it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.